March 2009. The stock market's on the floor. Lehman Brothers is 6 months dead. People are checking their retirement accounts the way you check a wound. Real slow, real scared. And there's this school teacher, Margaret. She's got 50 grand saved up. House money, down payment money. The "we finally made it" money. She looks at the worst economy since the Great Depression and dumps all 50 grand into an index fund. Her family thought she'd lost it. Her friends staged what was basically an intervention. Everybody told her to wait until things calmed down. She didn't wait. That $50,000? Today it's worth about $590,000. Now, before you go mad at your past self for not doing the same thing, I'm not telling you this story to make you feel behind. I'm telling you because that exact setup, fear on one side, opportunity hiding right underneath it, is happening again, right now. And most people are going to miss it for the same reason Margaret's family almost talked her out of it. It feels too big and too scary to be real. Except this time, it's not a crash. It's actually the opposite. It's money. A stupid, almost cartoonish amount of it. $124 trillion. That's about to move through this economy over the next 20 years. More than every single country on Earth's economy combined, all added together. And I promise you, nobody's talking about this at your kitchen table. You're worried about eggs and rent and your credit card minimum. Meanwhile, there's this quiet freight train of cash getting ready to roll straight through your life, whether you're paying attention or not. So stick with me. I'm going to show you exactly where this money's coming from, who actually gets it, why most people are about to miss it completely, and the boring, unsexy little moves that turn a regular paycheck person into the next Margaret. If you like knowing where the money's actually going instead of just vibes and headlines, drop a comment, tell me what year you think the next 2009 moment hits, and subscribe, because we're just getting started. Okay, so let's rewind and look at what actually happened after Margaret made her insane move. Because the receipts are wild. That stock market floor in 2009? The S&P 500 sat at 676 points. By January of this year, it crossed 7,000. That's not a typo. That's a decade and a half of the market basically going, "Hold my beer," over and over again. And here's the part nobody tells you. The people who rode that wave weren't hedge fund guys in glass towers. They were teachers, nurses, the guy who fixes your AC, regular people who just kept putting money into their 401k and didn't touch it. In 2010, this country had about 8.4 million millionaire households. By the end of 2024, almost 24 million. We nearly tripled it. 15 million families crossed that $1 million line in about 14 years. That's basically the entire population of New York City deciding to become millionaires, quietly, while everyone else was doom-scrolling. And it's still happening. UBS says the US added 379,000 new millionaires in 2024 alone. That's over 1,000 people a day, crossing that line. Not lottery winners, not people who invented an app, people who just stayed in the game. So that's proof the last impossible moment paid off. Now let's talk about the next one, and why it's actually bigger. Baby boomers, born between 46 and 64, currently hold about 52% of all the wealth in this country. Call it $78 trillion sitting with one generation. And here's the thing about generations. They don't last forever. The youngest boomers turn 62 this year. The oldest are pushing 80. Which means over the next 2 decades, that $78 trillion, plus everything layered on top of it, is going to move. $106 trillion to heirs, $18 trillion to charity. Gen X is set to inherit around $39 trillion over the next 25 years, landing right when a lot of them are sandwiched between aging parents and their own kids' tuition bills. Millennials are looking at $46 trillion, arriving right as they hit their peak earning years. It's like the economy scheduled a payout right when people actually need it. Which, sure, feels almost too convenient, but here we are. Now, before you get excited and start mentally spending your inheritance on a boat, let me pump the brakes, because this is where most people get the story completely backwards. You're probably not getting a windfall. I'm sorry. 62% of that transfer is sitting with the top 2% of households, the ultra-wealthy families. So if your plan is, "I'll just wait for grandma," that's not a financial strategy. That's a lottery ticket with extra grief attached. Most families are inheriting modest amounts, or nothing at all. Leaning on "someday I'll inherit something," while ignoring your own finances, is like refusing to buy groceries because you're hoping someone invites you to dinner. Might happen, wouldn't bet the month on it. So if the inheritance itself isn't the play for most of us, what is? It's what that money does once it starts moving. $124 trillion doesn't just sit in a vault somewhere. It gets deployed into homes, into businesses, into markets. And the generation receiving it doesn't think like their boomer parents. 72% of investors under 43 don't believe stocks and bonds alone are going to cut it anymore. So this money is going to flow differently. Into AI infrastructure, clean energy, real estate, alternative assets. Entire sectors are about to get a capital injection bigger than anything the government has ever thrown at the economy. For context, the entire pandemic stimulus was about $5 trillion. This wealth transfer is 25 times that, spread over 20 years. And look, I get it. None of this feels real when you're standing at the checkout line, watching the total climb higher than it did last month for the exact same cart. Median household income in this country sits around $80,000, and the average household's carrying over $6,000 in credit card debt at interest rates that would make a loan shark blush. So yeah, $124 trillion sounds like fantasy money when your rent went up again and your paycheck didn't. I'm not going to pretend that gap isn't real, but that gap is exactly why the people who position themselves, even in small, boring ways, end up somewhere completely different 20 years from now than the people who just absorb the bad news and keep scrolling. So let's make it boring and specific. Because boring is what actually works. Somebody puts $500 a month into a simple index fund. Historical average return, about 10% a year. 25 years later, the full length of this wealth transfer, that's roughly $665,000. Bump it to $1,000 a month, which sounds like a lot until you remember what a lot of people spend on takeout and subscriptions they forgot they have. And you're looking at $1.33 million. That's not a hot stock tip. That's just showing up every month and not touching it. If you want to savings actually catch this second wave, that's the mechanism. Not waiting for a check in the mail. Participating in the economy, that check is about to supercharge. Real quick, if this is the kind of thing you wish someone had explained to you before you turned 30, drop a comment and tell me where you're starting from. Because I read these. And subscribe, because we're about to get into the part where I tell you how many times people almost quit right before it paid off. Because here's the part that never makes the highlight reel. Staying invested through this is going to feel awful sometimes. Since 2009, there's been the European debt mess, a government shutdown, a trade war, a global pandemic crash, a brutal 2022 bear market. Every single time, the headline said, "This was the one that breaks everything." And every single time, the people who panicked and pulled out paid for it. Goldman Sachs looked at this, missed just the 10 best days in the market since 2009, and your annual return drops from about 17% down to 12%. Miss the 25 best days, and you've cut your returns almost in half. And the cruel joke is, the best days almost always show up right in the middle of the scariest weeks. Exactly when most people are mentally checking out. So the market's not asking you to be a genius. It's asking you to not flinch. Which honestly, might be the harder job. And here's the thing that actually gets me. Sitting with all these numbers, nobody had to hide any of this from you. Nobody buried it in a vault under a bank. The 2009 bottom was sitting right there on every phone, every news channel, free for anyone to see. This wealth transfer? It's in research reports from places like Cerulli and UBS. Public, dated, downloadable. There's no secret handshake. There's no insider room you weren't invited into. The only thing that ever separated Margaret from everyone else who watched the market crash in 2009 and did nothing. She read the same headlines you did. She was just as scared as her neighbors. She just didn't let the fear make the decision for her. So picture this. It's 2046. Someone's sitting exactly where you are right now, watching some video about the next impossible-sounding shift in the economy. And they hear a story about someone back in 2026 who saw the wealth transfer coming and quietly started putting $500 a month into an index fund while everybody else was busy arguing about egg prices. Here's the only real question tonight. Are you the story they tell? Or are you the guy at the checkout line still complaining that nobody warned him? Because I just did. Right now. This is the warning. The market doesn't care if you're ready. The $78 trillion sitting with the boomers doesn't wait for you to feel financially secure first. It's already moving. Every year you sit out is a year you don't get back. And compound interest is not a patient friend. It's more like rent. It doesn't care what excuse you had. It just keeps charging. You don't need to be rich to catch this. You don't need an inheritance, a rich uncle, or a lucky stock pick. You need a boring account, an automatic transfer, and the discipline to leave it alone when the headlines try to scare you out of it. That's it. That's the whole strategy. It was the whole strategy in 2009 too. It's just wearing a different outfit this time. So, comment one word below. IN if you're starting this month, or later, if you're still gonna wait for the perfect moment that's never coming. I want to see how many of you actually mean it. And subscribe, because the headlines are going to get loud again before this transfer is over. And when they do, I'll be the one telling you to sit still and hold the line. The best time to plant that tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. And unlike everything else in this economy, that part's still free.